Okay, good evening. My name is Tracy Craig, and I'll be moderating tonight's meeting. This is the community kickoff meeting hosted by Alameda County for the upcoming above-ground demolition and environmental site investigation work at the former AB&I property, which I think most people know is located on San Leandro Street, near the Coliseum in Oakland. With me tonight helping run the controls is John Permani, and John is going to quickly take us through the next slide, which is about Spanish interpretation, and then we'll get into the agenda. I do want to let folks know that this meeting is being recorded. John?
Thanks, Tracy. Hi, everyone. Tonight we will have a Spanish simultaneous interpretation. For those of you who'd like to listen to the presentation in Spanish, you can click either the globe icon in the control screen, or if you're on your phone, you may need to click the 3 dots to find the globe icon. Once you've found that, it'll open up a window and you can choose between English and Spanish. Select the language you'd like to hear, and then if you like, you can choose to mute the original audio. I'm going to give a moment for the Spanish interpreter to translate that into Spanish, and then we'll start the interpretation feature.
Buenas tardes. Para aquellos que desean seguir la presentación en idioma español, van a encontrar un dibujo, un símbolo de un globo terráqueo. Deben hacer clic en interpretación, elegir el idioma, haciendo clic en idioma para escuchar español y opcional, si desean escuchar solo el idioma interpretado, pueden hacer clic en silenciar audio original. Para aquellos que vayan a utilizar su teléfono celular, van a tener que buscar la opción donde existen 3 puntitos y desde allí seleccionar las opciones. Muchas gracias.
Thank you. The interpretation feature is now on.
Thank you. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so again, this is the community kickoff meeting for the above-ground demolition and environmental site investigation work at the AB&I facility. I have just a few housekeeping items. This meeting is being recorded and it will be uploaded to GeoTracker I think this evening. We'd ask you to hold your questions until the end of a short presentation, about 20 minutes, unless it's a clarifying question. To ask a question, you can simply raise your real hand or your virtual hand, and we'll call on you. I see that we only right now have 5 attendees, so I'd like to actually promote all of those folks so that we can see their face and they have audio and visual capabilities. So John, if you could invite them all into to be a panelist, that would be great. Okay, and while you're doing that, I'd like to quickly go through the agenda. Tonight, we're going to be providing information on the oversight agency roles. There's quite a few agencies involved in this project, Alameda County, the City of Oakland, so we want to make sure people know exactly what their roles are. We'll be discussing the demolition work, and then also measures that will be taken to protect the community while that work is happening. And then probably the most important part will be answering questions and taking comments from the public. You can see our agenda right there. I don't think I need to read that to anybody. Next slide, John. Okay, so we have responsible parties that I'd like to go through. First of all, we have AB&I Foundry, and they are now McWane, and that's the former operator of the AB&I Foundry. They have removed the equipment at the site, including hazardous waste and non-hazardous waste associated with site operations. And with us tonight from AB&I, I'm just going to have people, AB&I cannot use their cameras tonight. They don't have the equipment, but we have Michael Lowe, Melissa Cohen, and then Jeff Weatherly. And then with Prologis, who is the new owner of the former AB&I Foundry, we have Blair Rushing. Blair, can you raise your hand? And then Janet Galvez. And then Monkey, excuse me. Okay, and then we also, as not a responsible party, but they are Prologis's environmental consultant, we have Rue, and an important name for you to know since they'll be actually doing the environmental work out there. And with Rue, we have Harold Rush. Thanks, Harold. And then Richard Maxwell. Okay. And then next slide, we'll go through the various agencies or city entities that are responsible as well. So with us tonight, we have Alameda County Department of Environmental Health. We have the Certified Unified, Program Agencies, or otherwise known as the CUPA, and they have oversight over part of this work, and with Emily is representing them tonight. Emily Ho. Thank you, Emily. And then also with Alameda County Department of Environmental Health, the local oversight program for hazardous materials releases, shortened to the LOP. We have with us Dylan Rowe. I think most of you know Dylan. She's the Chief of Land and Water for the Department of Environmental Health. Dylan. And then also Andrew Drew York, and he's actually the day-to-day case manager for environmental issues. And then we actually have Chris Candell from the City of Oakland, because they have a role in this as well. Chris has a problem with an alarm going off, I think, at the City of Oakland offices right now, so he can just raise his hand. And then finally, the Bay Area Air Quality Management District also has a role in this project. If there's dust complaints or odor complaints during the work, you can either call Rue, me, or you can call the Bay Area Air Quality Management District. So that takes us through kind of all of the roles, and we'll have more discussion about that as we move through. And now I'd like to hand this over to, I believe, Emily, to talk about, oh no, actually Dylan, because we're going to be talking about site investigation and corrective actions first. So the site obviously likely has pollution from former operations, and Alameda County Department of Environmental Health will be the agency overseeing the cleanup of subsurface, so under the ground contamination. And Dylan's going to take you through the work that's been done for that first. Dylan?
Good evening, everybody. So I'm just going to run through initial site investigation activities that have begun. And they started in June of 2023 and are expected to extend until through September 2023. Again, these are just the initial investigations. And there have been 64 samplers that are put in the ground to collect soil gas samples so that we can understand where we may have volatile organic compounds that have been released to the ground. And then we have 8 groundwater monitoring wells that have been installed on the perimeter of the site for collection of groundwater samples to evaluate potential offsite impacts. And all of those samples will be monitored or analyzed by the laboratory for volatile organic compounds. And soil samples will be collected have been collected during the installation of the groundwater monitoring wells. And they will be analyzed also for volatile organic compounds and petroleum products and metals and other potential chemicals of concern. Once the data has been collected, there will be reports. The initial site investigation report will be submitted to Alameda County for review, and it will be available for public viewing also on the State Water Resources Control Board's GeoTracker website. And based on that information, we will make determinations whether additional investigation is needed to further evaluate impacts to soil, groundwater, and soil vapor, or if corrective actions are needed to implement any kind of cleanup actions at the site. And those cleanup actions, when we get to understanding those, they will be presented in a proposed cleanup plan that has a name called the Corrective Action Plan. And they will present the plans that are proposed based on the results of the investigation. And again, that will be, all these documents will be available to the public for review. The CAP will have a formal 30-day public comment period where we will receive written comments on the CAP, and we will not approve that document until public comment period has been completed and all comments received have been addressed. I think the next page shows, if you go to the next page, this page shows where the groundwater monitoring wells are installed. They're the red dots located around the perimeter of the site. And those will tell us information about groundwater flow, direction, and contaminant concentrations. Then next slide, please. These black dots show the locations where all the soil vapor is going to be collected. It's basically on a grid across the site, and in a few areas where there's historic operations that we want to make sure we're looking at. And what this is going to do, when we get this data back, it's going to generate a very colorful map that really helps guide where volatile organic compounds are, if they are in the subsurface. And it'll have colors like bright red will be where you have the highest concentrations. It'll have light yellow where they're less. And that figure will be available for everybody to see, and it will help guide future investigations and remedial actions regarding volatile organic compounds. Next slide. I'm going to turn it over to Emily now with Coupa. I just want to reiterate that that's the initial investigation process, and it's we will make determinations about additional investigation as we go on. Emily?
Okay, thanks, Dylan. Once again, my name is Emily Ho. I'm one of the supervisors within the Coupa program, and we're overseeing the hazardous waste program and also this facility closure. So for this project, the facility closure has been broken into 3 parts. Part A is the bulk hazardous materials and hazardous waste generated and were disposed by AB&I. So this was during plant shutdown, and directly after it, they removed the bulk materials and disposed of it. Part B is the hazardous waste which becomes accessible or generated by Prologis and their contractors during the above ground demolition activities. And then finally, part C is the demolition, which is mainly the ground surface, the asphalt, the concrete, other substructures. This part, we're not anticipating that it's going to generate hazardous waste. The demolition activities under Part C is per the demolition plan, which was approved by the City of Oakland. So I'm going to go into the next slide. We'll talk a little bit more about Part A, facility closure. So Alameda County Department of Environmental Health, Coupa, is responsible for ensuring that hazardous materials and hazardous wastes have been removed from the former AB&I property and transported and disposed of in accordance with state regulations. That's our goal. To meet these requirements, AB&I prepared a facility closure plan documenting the process for facility closure in relationship to the hazmat and the haz waste. This closure plan was initially implemented by AB&I, and on April 27, 2023, the Coupa documented the closure plan and activities to date. Summary of those closure activities, including the disposition of equipment and materials, is presented in a report that's been submitted to the Coupa and is currently under review. So the next slide is Part B, and Part B is the demo work, and it's broken into 3 subparts, I guess. The asbestos and the lead abatement has already been completed. That was wrapped up last month, July 2023. And then demolition of all structures is scheduled to begin shortly and continue through the end of 2023. The next slide will show the phasing of the demolition, but they're starting with the warehouses and the offices and moving next to the main foundry, and then finally the bag house structures. Part B also includes cleanup and abatement of the cupola duct and the bag house interior. This hazardous waste was previously inaccessible prior to the demolition activity. So once we start taking things apart, they're able to get into more of the innards of the foundry, and that hazardous waste, anything that's encountered, is disposed of properly. All of these materials, which are determined to be hazardous waste, are again overseen by the Coupa under this facility closure plan. We will have more details on the demolition work and the protection plans in later slides. And with that, I think it's going back to Dylan.
Yeah, so could you just roll back to that slide really quick? Okay. So after all the structures are down, they'll come down to the foundations and the hardscape, and the foundations and the hardscape will stay there until a cleanup plan and more investigation has been conducted to understand potential shallow soil impacts. So you can see outside of the structures, which are colored here, is all the gray. That hardscape will come up, and then all the foundations underneath the buildings will come up. So next slide. So the local oversight program, the department I oversee, will be overseeing the work when the foundations and the asphalt come out, the concrete and asphalt, it's during that time, asphalt and concrete will be generated and stockpiled, and it will be characterized, and it will go offsite to a offsite disposal or recycling facility, depending on its characterization. And most importantly, from the world of potential subsurface contamination, is there will be a lot of management of the soil that is beneath the hardscape and the foundations, and management, stabilization, remediation. Those items are kind of all there, because we're not clear of what the shallow soil will, what we see in the shallow soil now, and we'll get more of that information as we go along with the investigation. And this hardscape and foundation is anticipated to be completed between June and September of 2024. So not this year, but next year. And all work will be conducted as part of the site cleanup. And prior to this, the plan that I spoke about previously, a corrective action plan, will be made available for public review. Next slide. So I've talked about this before in community meetings with CB&E. Environmental health is committed to doing what we can do to protect the community during demolition work. And I believe the whole team that's involved in this is committed to doing what we can do to protect the community during demolition, including Coupa, including the city of Oakland, including the LOP, and including Prologis. And we have a lot of plans in place to make sure that those community protection measures are in place and are effective. So the first thing is that all the demolition work is conducted on site. So all of this will be controlled within the perimeter of the property. There are multiple plans. I believe they're all up on GeoTracker, but actually I need to verify that. They should be on GeoTracker, the case file, the demolition work plan, the health and safety plan, the community air monitoring plan, and the stormwater pollution prevention plan. Of all of those documents, environmental health approves the community air monitoring plan. The other documents are part of the approval package with the city of Oakland's permit. And probably the two most important items that are critical to protecting the community are management of dust, so that it does not leave the site, and then management of stormwater, so it also does not leave the site. Dust management will be occurring, and kind of best management practices will be used to control dust, watering of exposed surfaces at least twice daily or as often as needed to control dust emissions, street sweeping on adjacent roads at least once per day, enclosing, covering, watering twice a day, or applying non-toxic foam to expose stockpiles. That's for dust generation. And then stormwater management. There will be sandbags and other erosion control measures installed on the site, the perimeter site, around any kind of catch basins that will prevent impacts to stormwater. And there are plans for if you have severe weather and how stormwater is managed during those kinds of events. There's site signage. Site signage is up and has contact information. I have said this before, and I'll say it again. If you have an issue, I want you to contact us. Tracy knows how to get a hold of me. I am going to be monitoring this a lot. Drew, who works for me, is going to be monitoring this a lot. Ultimately, the responsibility for implementing community protection work is Prologis and RU, and we'll talk a little bit more about them. They're environmental consultant, but City of Oakland and Environmental Health will be helping to support that these measures are in place. So next slide, please. So the dust monitoring plan has monitoring stations that will be in place prior to starting the work. I'll talk a little bit about that as we go on. You can see on this figure where the monitoring locations are. There are 6 of them currently in the plan, and they are the blue dots. And then there are 2 more that will get implemented during demolition of the bag house when lead particulates may be generated, as Emily discussed earlier. This figure shows a wind direction, and it's a kind of not a very intuitive figure, but it's that colorful picture down there, and it shows the prevailing wind direction, which means the direction wind flows most of the time based on monitoring stations in this area. And the prevailing wind direction is from the west to the east. So you can see that that's a diagram with, I think, actually, I can't tell if that's north. You can see the north arrow. So the prevailing wind direction, you can see that big black arrow on this figure does go from the west to the east. And so during the bag house or the cupola demolition, that's why there are 2 additional monitoring stations, the pink ones that will add additional protection for monitoring dust levels as the work progresses. Next slide. So the community air monitoring plan, the responsibility for implementation of the community air monitoring plan is Prologis. His responsibility, and their consultant, RU, will be doing the work on behalf of Prologis. And they will be collecting all of the data and preparing reports. Environmental Health, again, will be overseeing, and other agencies, BachMed or City of Oakland, will also be involved if there are exceedances or complaints regarding dust. But the community air monitoring plan is robust. We've worked with them to have multiple lines of evidence that we can use to evaluate the effectiveness of the dust control during the work. And those multiple lines of evidence include starting off with air monitoring and sampling prior to the start of work. So that will be conducted for several days to get a baseline data set that says here's the air quality during the normal working hours that the demolition work will occur. There will be real-time continuous air monitoring at those dust locations, monitoring locations that I showed you, and those will run continuously while demolition work is being conducted. And those monitors have equipment that transmit data electronically and alert field staff of exceedances. And the field staff will be dedicated. RU will have dedicated staff on site that will be monitoring the operation of the monitoring stations, making sure that they're functioning appropriately, and being alerted to any messages where the monitoring stations are showing exceedances. They will also be boots on the ground. They will be looking. So they'll be looking at monitoring data, but they will also be visually watching for dust. And those field staff have the ability to stop work when exceedances occur. And I'll talk about that in a minute. There's a weather station that will help monitor the wind speed and direction and precipitation. Those things are important when you're determining the effectiveness of your monitoring plan, especially wind speed and direction. If wind speed changes and goes towards the west, work will stop. And that would be due to not having offsite monitors, the inability to have offsite monitors adjacent to the bag house and the railroad right of way. perimeter sampling will occur for potentially lead impacted air twice a week during demolition of the cupola and the bag house. And that's real sampling that will be submitted to a laboratory for analysis. And those results will be returned within 24 hours. And the air monitoring reports, both on the particulate matter and then on the lead samples. For the particulate matter, there will be daily reports that are uploaded to the website that just give a summary of exceedances. There will be weekly reports that will be uploaded to the website and to the case file that have raw data included in them. And then I think most importantly is the trigger levels that are included in the community air monitoring plan are health protective levels, and they have multiple safety margins. So we have multiple lines of evidence, and we have health protective action levels with multiple safety margins. And those trigger points and dust levels are spelled out specifically for when work will stop, and when work can resume. Next slide. There's other community protection measures that have to do with truck management. Trucks have potential to impact a community, both just from traveling on and off the site, and then from emissions from the trucks, and also the loading and transporting of material off-site. So as I think I discussed a little bit earlier, demolition material will be sorted and it will be directly loaded onto trucks to reduce the potential for dust. Trucks will be staged on site, so they will not be in the community. Truck hours will be between 7 and 5. There are protection measures to help with diesel emissions that limit truck idling and vehicle speeds. Trucks will be covered when they leave the site. They will also be deconned, either depending on if it's a wet season or a dry season, by making sure that track out of soil does not occur on the truck tires or the truck itself. The trucks will be maintained in working order, and the truck routes trucks will follow routes that are in the City of Oakland approved truck route and traffic control plan. The primary truck route from the site will be via San Leandro out to Hegenberger and then on to I-880. Next slide.
Okay, I think I'll take this over now.
Yep.
Again, Tracy Craig, and I just want to talk briefly about communications. There's obviously site signage up there, and I think my name is front and center, so people are always welcome to call me, and I'll get you in touch with the right party. I'm available 24/7. That means weekends and evenings and any other time people need help. We have a variety of other reports. We have the weekly project reports, and you can read all of that, but I think the most important thing I want to call attention to that's different is we do now have a project-specific website that Prologis has put together, and that will also be translated into Spanish, and that is up and operating right now in English, and the Spanish translation will be coming online soon. And that's where you can find kind of the daily reports and then reference to GeoTracker for bigger reports. Then next slide, please. And here's our schedule, and I think the real takeaway from this schedule is that the work will actually start on August 28th and will continue through the end of the year. As we discussed earlier, it's phased to minimize some of the impacts off-site and to have better control. And of course, the schedule is subject to change given weather and equipment availability and other such items. And then our work hours are 7 to 5. And I don't think any work is planned on weekends or holidays at present. Okay, and finally, for more information, again, I'm your primary contact. You can call me anytime and I will answer my phone. If I don't, I'll get back to you very, very quickly. Also, we have numbers for everybody that you've seen tonight. And then again, we have the Bay Area Air Quality Management District number that you can call if there's a complaint that you'd like to lodge with them. And then the two sources of online information, the GeoTracker, which is the Water Board's website that we upload all documents to, including this presentation will be uploaded there. And then again, Prologis has created a project-specific, community-friendly website. And I believe that concludes our presentation. So I would like to open this up to questions and answers. And you can just raise your hand and I'll call on you in order if you don't mind. And it would be great if you would identify yourself and who you're associated with so we know. And then if you you can speak as long as you like. I think we don't have that many attendees. So we are open for questions. Okay, and Kim Ryan, who's with CBE, has raised her hand. So Kim, please feel free to ask your questions. Nice to see you too.
Thanks, Tracy. Yeah, apologies for being off video. It's toddler dinner time here, so things are kind of a mess. But I really appreciate the presentations from Tracy and Dylan and Emily tonight. I did have a few questions, but wanted, I guess, my first one, just given the order of the slides here. I'm sorry if I missed this, but for the project-specific website, I think I remember Alameda County comments were noting to include air quality data on the website. We're just wondering if that will be posted, and if so, how soon after the data is being sent out to, say, the county, would that data be made available to the public?
I'll field that one. Kim, we talked a little bit about this at the CBE meeting last week, and we've looked a lot at the viability of putting that data up, the raw data up on a on a kind of in real time, and made a decision that the raw data will be put up on a weekly basis in these weekly reports. There will be a report every day on exceedances, but then the raw data will be included in a weekly report. And the reason for that decision is that raw data is subject to interpretation and needs to be interpreted by qualified professionals. We've had requests to train community, but it's my opinion that is not appropriate. That professionals need to be doing this. RU is the responsible professional, and we will readjust if we need to. If the first weekly status report does not shows that we have discrepancies in what we're seeing during the daily reports and the weekly report, we'll readjust as we need to as we go along, but it will be up there on a weekly basis.
Okay, great. Yeah, thank you very much for explaining.
Other questions, comments from attendees? I see that Lisa has her hand up. Please speak, Lisa.
Yeah, thank you. Just kind of following up on what you were just talking about. I am a little concerned, and I think I've heard this concern from others about the pushback on a request for access to raw data. I think you might be underestimating community members' ability to skill up in this area. And even if we don't understand all of the details, it feels like something's being hidden from the community if the data is not being available in real time. Is the concern really around us being allowed to see it? Is it more of a technical concern of how hard it is to post data in real time? Can you dig into that a little bit more?
Yeah, fair question. I had originally said that we would put it up in real time, but that is a bit of a technological challenge. I'm not trying to hide anything from this community. As a matter of fact, I'm requesting a lot of accountability. But I have only, and I'll be truthful about this because I've said this before, everything will not go perfect on this project. It won't. This is a big facility There will be some exceedances. I believe there will be. There are on everything that happens, and we're putting in as many touch points as we can to have accountability. My staff and I have a lot of energy focused on this project and are going to be putting a lot of energy on this project, but we also have a lot of other projects going on. And so I've come to what I believe is reasonable, and we'll give the data we need. And I don't want to, and I hear you. It's not. I'm not underestimating your community at all. You are all very smart, and I appreciate all your comments. I'm just trying to find a way that I think is manageable, and I think a weekly reporting of the raw data. If there is an issue with raw data, we're going to find it. And I mean, I think the other thing is, you know, I've made this commitment that we will readjust and readjust and readjust as we need to. If we see that the process that we're implementing is not conservative enough. But I think there are a lot of measures here in place to try to make data available to the community, make data available that I have been able to see and look at, because the last thing I need is a lot of comments from people that may or may not be valid, and I'm not underestimating you. But I think that I need to be able to have my staff and myself be looking at data and giving it to you at the same time and letting us all take a look at it. But I feel that a weekly basis for raw data is a reasonable approach. It's more than reasonable is my, well, I'm not even going to say more than reasonable. This is a community that we want to protect. This is a community that has suffered air impacts. And if demolition is generating dust that is not being controlled, we will stop work until we figure it out. I don't think looking at raw data all the time is going to be more effective than eyes on the ground, boots on the ground, and the continuous monitoring that's going to give us alerts. And if we're hearing too many alerts in a day, we're going to regroup.
Okay. Okay, and then do you have other questions, or may I call on Margie Lewis?
Go ahead and call on Margie. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Margie? There you are. Margie, we can't hear you quite yet.
How
There we go.
do I?
There you go. We can hear you. Yep.
I have no clue how that happened, but
well done.
I wanted to know, I understand that you put, you had your mechanisms for letting the community know. I'm particularly interested in the schools, since I know right off the bat, next to the 81st Street Library, there are several elementary schools there. So what I would like to propose is that you either ask us or you do your own research and find out what are the local schools in the catchment area, and personally reach out to those principals to let them know this is going on. Because, when the kids go out at recess and at lunchtime, I think responsible adults need to be aware that this is going on. And if they notice anything, they must report it.
Absolutely, 100% agreed, Margie. And Tracy, I think we've talked about this before, but I would agree that that is an absolute 100% need to let schools know. We've had other experiences on other excavation sites that actually had quite a bit of an odor because of petroleum, where schools did contact us, and we do want schools to know what's going on and know exactly who to call.
And I would add that when Alameda County put out their fact sheet a couple of weeks ago. It discussed all of this work, and that was dropped off in person at local schools and discussed with the principals in charge. And we can go and do that again, Margie, in response to your comment. Quickly just remind them that the work is starting on the 28th now and who the contact is.
Yeah, the reason I said that is because, you know, at the beginning of the school year, there's so many things.
Absolutely.
Something else from the county, you know, maybe put on the back burner. But if there was a direct call or something like this is happening in 2 days, let the staff be aware, you know, at the assembly, whatever. I think that's, I'm saying that it would be an effective route.
And we did offer to brief the teachers, but that was, we weren't taken up on that, but absolutely we'll follow up again in response to that comment. Thank you. Others? I'll give everybody just a couple minutes more to think things, and I'll reiterate that if we get off this meeting early and you have questions that you wish you had asked, you can always call me and I'll make sure that you get in touch with the right person and get those answers that you're looking for.
Hello. Hi, this is Marissa. I'm calling in.
Hi.
Hi, I had a questions. I work in the area near the 81st library at the community farm, and I'm just wondering, is there like a list of recommendations in terms of how do we best prepare for ourselves before, you know, I understand that like there will be heavy monitoring of the demolition as the days, you know, day by day, but before it were to get to like an excessive level, we're like, oh, we were exposed. Are there any recommendations that have been put out or that can be put out for people who, yeah, like, you know, for the kids in the neighborhood who are at the local schools, or for our neighbors, for the people working outside, all, you know, the surrounding community, just like preventative care for us.
So want to address that in two ways. One of the things, and this came out of a comment with CB&E last week about, you know, wondering about what are potential health impacts, right, from exposure, short-term exposure. So one of the things that we are going to request Prologis do is have a toxicologist prepare a human health risk assessment for short-term exposure risk from lead impacted dust. And we've done that on other sites that really do show that and I'm going to say it, but it's going to get backed up by, you know, this is what I'm anticipating it will say, that the risk of short-term exposure is low. Now, I'm going to acknowledge that this community has been impacted by way too many contaminants. So I'm not gonna dress that up. And so I think one of the things that we can ask, and I, you know, I think there's always recommendations that, but I'll tell you, if this is happening, this work is shutting down. If there are big dust clouds going on at this site, this is shutting down. This is not going to happen. So there are recommendations, and I have like sensitive lungs, so like to volatiles. But if you know, there can be recommendations to close your windows, right? Not have them open during the day if you're concerned about it. But I do not anticipate that extraordinary measures will need to be taken, because if extraordinary measures need to be taken, something is very broken here and this work will not be proceeding. So I think, Tracy, I don't know, we can talk about, you know, putting on the website, Prologis, your toxicologist that you're going to get can put on some short-term, you know, some measures of what you might want to do. But this is about particulate matter that would be in dust and exposure to that. And we should not be seeing that dust leaving this site on a level that will be of detriment to people. Now, that being said, stuff can happen. You're right. Something could happen. And I'm going to do my best to make sure nothing happens. And there are a lot of people, and I believe that the city of Oakland is going to do their best to make sure, and Prologis is going to make sure that this does not happen. This is going to be controlled. There are eyes all over the map. I want people calling if there is an issue. I want to nip this in the bud before it becomes an issue. But we are going to have that human health risk assessment submitted. That I'm an engineer, so I'm not gonna speak and tell you what human health impacts are. I'm going to have the people that are trained in this profession to make those kinds of reports and talk about that to give some level of comfort.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Yes, Lisa, please.
Thanks. I had a couple follow-up questions based on the conversation that we had with several of you last week. And I'm sorry if this was mentioned already and I missed it, but we talked about potentially adding a second upwind monitor to the south of the cupola and moving both slightly away to prevent issues due to turbulence. Is that part of the plan?
That is part of the plan. We're going to be issuing a directive letter tomorrow requesting that, and we have indicated that to Prologis.
Okay, great. And also the part about extending the length of time to take the baseline to be longer than 2 days?
Yes, we will also be addressing that in our directive letter tomorrow. And then what we'll be getting is a final revised community air monitoring plan that addresses that, and then also has this short-term exposure human health risk.
Got it. Thank you.
Welcome.
Other questions? We have 9 more minutes. Please, Kim.
Thanks, Tracy. I know Emily had mentioned several documents that were passing through the Coupa. I'm just wondering if those are also being uploaded to GeoTracker. I haven't looked in the past couple of days, but are the Coupa closure documents also being uploaded to GeoTracker?
So I believe that they are. We have not finalized the approval plans, but Dylan, have those been uploaded too? Because I know we're saying everything.
Yeah, we have requested. So what I'm going to ask Prologis, and I'm going to ask Rue, because you are the gatekeepers of GeoTracker. We have asked that everything related to this site is uploaded to GeoTracker, including the Coupa documents, everything. So Rue, Prologis, you want to confirm that?
Yes, of course. We'll be uploading everything to GeoTracker.
Are the Coupa documents uploaded to GeoTracker?
The Coupa Part A documents have been uploaded.
Okay.
The Coupa work plan was uploaded to GeoTracker. And as far as I know, those are the only documents, the Coupa related.
Yeah, there'll be some other letters forthcoming soon, but they just haven't been finalized yet.
Okay. So Kim, we're working on, we've been working on, there's I'm trying to get all correspondence, everything up there. And Drew has a tickler on his calendar every Monday and Friday to look at GeoTracker to make sure if there are documents have been accepted and are accessible to the public.
Yeah, and Part A or Phase A or Phase 1, the facility closure plan, Part A has been uploaded to GeoTracker.
Okay.
And all the associated documents.
Okay, great. Yeah, thank you for confirming that.
So I'm going to say this. It takes a village. And I am one person, and Drew is one person, and we work really hard at our jobs, and Emily is one person, and all the people on this are one person, and then we need you guys too. So I want to be partners in this, right, with the community. I know that regulators say a lot of stuff and do not follow through on it. And I am telling you, we are not perfect, but I am telling you where we are committed, and I need your input, and I need you to be partners with us when we're doing this, because we want to change that. We want to change that dialogue on this part. We want this part of the AB&I Foundry demolition and cleanup to be one of transparency, one of immediate action, and one of listening to the community. So again, Tracy's the line to me. A lot of you have my direct number. We are available, and if you are calling somebody in my group and they are not responding to you, I want to hear about it, because this is this is not lip service from this agency. Okay, then we need to stand up to that. We need to show that we mean that.
Okay, last thoughts? I did type in the chat box if you'd like to give us your email. We'll keep it, we won't do anything with it other than let you know when new documents are uploaded. And if nobody has any further comments, then I'd like to thank everybody for attending, for your comments and thoughts. I know you could do other things this evening, so we appreciate your time. And again, Tracy Craig, I'm available anytime if you have questions or think of something you wish you had asked. I'm happy to take a phone call from you. Okay? So I think with that, I will say good night and thank you everybody for attending.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
All right, bye-bye now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.